Good morning. My name is Kim Voselka, and I'm the service manager here at Foster Group. I'm joined by my colleagues, Ashley Verriger and Brittany Hurd, both advisors on our team. We'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Empowering Women with Their Money. Before we get started with today's presentation, there's a few housekeeping items we wanted to touch on. Today's webinar is scheduled to last 30 minutes with a Q&A included. We are recording today's webinar and we'll actually send you a link early next week. If you have any questions during our presentation, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You'll be able to submit that there. And we will be following up via email to answer any questions we may not be able to cover today. So, well, ladies, now with our housekeeping items out of the way, shall we launch into our content?
Let's get going.
Awesome. We as women have the beautiful opportunity to have a lot of roles in our lives. We're mothers and daughters, spouses, colleagues, caregivers, friends. And if we think of each of these roles as wearing a different hat, one hat that doesn't often get a lot of airtime is our financial wellness hat. Ashley, will you share why it's important for us to pay attention to our financial wellness hat?
This is a big hat. I'm just saying, it's one that we're going to wear with an increasing amount of frequency. It's a big one that we should take seriously. And spoiler alert, we're going to keep on wearing it and wearing it. It looks great on you, so embrace it. You know, we've got some research by the year 2030, 2/3 of wealth in the United States is going to be held in the hands of women. This is a really big deal. Generationally, we're experiencing a historic amount of wealth transfer as the baby boomers prepare to retire and pass their assets on to future generations. And as women, you know, we tend to live longer than men. So that means we could be inheriting both from a spouse and a parent or ancestor. And so it's going to be on our shoulders to carry that responsibility and to be stewards of those resources, not only for our own lives, but for that of future generations. So that can seem a little overwhelming, you know, like any of us have ample free time to add another responsibility to that list, you know, another to-do item. But there are resources and strategies that we have to help us with this big hat.
With this, you might be asking, how should I take on this additional responsibility? How can I maximize my impact without outliving my money? What should I look for in an advisor? And when might be the best time in my life to engage with an advisor?
Yeah, those are great questions, Brittany. I think we'll be able to tackle most of those today. I want to kick it back to you, though. What are some of those big questions your clients are asking you?
Top of mind for so many of our clients is, do I have enough money to last throughout my lifetime? Am I going to be okay? And everyone wants financial confidence, and they want to learn how to gain financial confidence. And there are so many variables to consider. My best advice is to create a financial plan, right? Run the numbers, test the scenarios, look at all the possibilities, because that helps you see all the scenarios and feel confident with what the outcome is. I met with a client I will call Beth during her divorce process, and I got to go with her and meet with her and her attorney as we walked through what are possible scenarios and outcomes for her financials, right? And we talked about what she needed going forward. And Beth hadn't really managed the financials in her household, and so this was all very new to her. We talked about how can we make this successful for her? She was worried about caring for herself, but also caring for her adult child who had some unique challenges. And so as I met with Beth, we ran the numbers, looked at the financial plan, but also looked at everything holistically, right? As advisors, we also meet with attorneys and CPAs on our clients' behalf to help make sure the entire financial picture is in good shape. We're talking about the estate plan, we're talking about taxes, we're talking about so many things. Well, Beth was nervous about how to spend, right? Didn't know what she needed living for going forward. And so we and my team, we looked at her bank accounts, we looked at how much she had spent in the past to analyze what would we think she needed going forward. As we worked through all this, I helped Beth gain confidence in her financial plan.
Ashley, how about you? What are some of those pivotal questions your clients are asking?
Similar to the questions that Brittany's client Beth was asking, am I going to be okay? Do I have enough? I think these are natural questions that we all ask. And related to that question is one that I get a lot in the work that I do as an advisor. And it's, am I going to be okay if something bad happens to me? And people, these unknown life events that we all could face at a moment's notice without any forewarning, these are some of the scariest moments to prepare for because we may not see them coming. And with a client I worked with, we'll call her Lisa, not her real name. Lisa went through an unexpected loss. And initially it was really hard for her. Her former husband had been leading their financial life. She balanced the checkbook every month and had a good sense of what was in the bank account, but he was in charge of driving the investment strategy. It was he who engaged with the estate planning attorney and the tax accountant. And so she was suddenly setting her financial agenda as an adult for really the first time. She went back to the workforce after more than 20 years as a homemaker. So certainly that was a big shift. She also was trying to get 3 kids launched into independence. They're all in their early 20s, and she's trying to get them on sound footing as they begin their adult lives. And initially, the strain of adding that financial responsibility to her many other roles and duties was really hard. She struggled with it. But with all of those shifts, with all of the conflicted feelings she was working with, I thought what would help her most in those initial days and weeks of working together was just focusing on the basics. So we sat down and we met over her lunch hour. She was paid by the hour. So if we went a little long, she had to make up that time at the end of the day. She was always keeping an eye on the clock. She kept me honest. And what we did is that we really focused on 2 things. Number one, giving her a sense of her own balance sheet so that she knew what the resources that were at her disposal were. And then also focusing on her budget, really, what would she need to run her household each and every month? So with that balance sheet, we went over what kind of accounts do you have? What's the best usage for each kind of account? When can you access it? How might we approach those and invest those and take withdrawals from those differently? And with the budget, we said, you do have some resources at your disposal. You're also making an income again. Let's measure those things against the expenses that it takes to maintain your lifestyle each month. And if there are gaps, she could have filled some of that from her portfolio. But we wanted to make sure that she was doing that in a sustainable and responsible way so that she was not only meeting her needs today, but was also setting herself up well for decades of retirement. And it was kind of amazing, once we gave her that solid footing with just those 2 really simple things, the transformation was just almost immediate. She went from being stressed and frazzled and feeling underwater, like she couldn't take a breath, to curious and interested, engaged, wanting to learn more. She worked in an office at an operating business. She started reading the Wall Street Journal that came to the office with the mail every week. And she would ask me questions about the companies that she saw on the front page, Tesla and Google and Netflix. What role do these companies play in my portfolio? Are they good long-term investments for me? I would not have imagined those kinds of questions coming out of her mouth when we started working together. And in just such a short amount of time, during one of the most difficult seasons of her life, it was like she was a completely different person. And it was so humbling and encouraging and just amazing to watch that transformation process that she went through.
That's remarkable. As I was hearing both of you speak, there is no doubt in my mind, each of you were the perfect advisors for those ladies, just to hear the financial confidence that they gained in working with you. And it also sounded to me like those are really personal conversations. So they're more about just the dollars and the cents. They're their innermost hopes and fears, concerns and worries. When you're thinking about coaching a woman to engage in a financial advisory relationship, how would you coach them to almost interview somebody in order to have those conversations so they are comfortable?
It's a great question, Kim. And a lot of our clients do come to Foster Group because someone else has recommended us, that have come through word of mouth. And one of my clients that comes to mind was that way too. She was referred and introduced to us by her family member who had used Foster Group. And so I got to meet Sue when she was going through a difficult time. She her husband, John, had been diagnosed with early Alzheimer's, and he had been able to work for a few years, but then had to stop work because of disability.
Gosh.
And she was going through a lot of things. She was worried about how to take care of him, but also about how to take care of their financial life, because John had always been the one to manage their investment accounts and plan for retirement. And Sue had a good knowledge of her financial day-to-day expenses and things, but she was overwhelmed by the decision-making of things she would have to do on her own now. And so when she first came to meet with me, we just clicked because she had so many questions and wanted to talk, and it was really deeper than just the money, like you said, Kim. So Sue came to me. She did talk very fast because she was anxious. She was really nervous about what would happen in her life, and she told me she wasn't sleeping well. As we worked together, we talked about what are her hopes and goals. What does she want to do? And she told me that she wanted to move into a different home that was better suited for caring for John. She also wanted to do that without having to pay a lot of taxes, right? So we looked at the numbers of how to achieve that goal in a really tax efficient way. We talked about how to invest and plan for retirement and their spending needs that they would need in the future. And that was really helpful for her. She gained a lot of confidence as we talked through that plan. She worked hard to understand everything we talked about, and she learned a lot along the way too. After they moved into their new home, got settled, and we were managing the investment accounts, Sue came to meet with me, and she was talking at a normal pace again. She told me she was sleeping at night, and I was just so glad to see some transformation in her and some change. That confidence, that peace of mind of having the financial plan really helped her.
What a relief it is.
Yeah. And Ashley or Brittany, I can really even just see it on your face, right? You poured care and time and investment into her in a pivotal time in her life. Ashley, will you paint that picture for us? We know conversations are more than just about the dollars and the cents. We want to help our clients get to their goals and objectives, but we also offer this element of care. How have you seen that in your work that you've done?
You know, that's a great question, Kim. And I think some of the most important work that we do as advisors, some of the most critical things that we do every day, they're not about investment returns and they're not about bank balances. They're really about helping our clients feel heard and seen and known and understood. And when we do those things, when we engage with clients that way, that's how relationships that last a lifetime are built, because it's all about how we feel with that interaction. And when we're able to do that and we're able to engage with clients in that way and ask those big questions and have those interesting and deep conversations, that's when I think that we're doing truly our best work and helping our clients get to where they want to be and making that big impact. And so a client story comes to mind. I'll use the name Martha, again, not her real name. Martha is one of the most interesting and thoughtful people I've ever met. And her life reads like a best-selling novel. I'm convinced we could make a Netflix series out of her life and we would all eat it up. It would be a worldwide hit. She is a beautiful soul inside and out, and she never shied away from the big questions, which is really unique because a lot of times those can be the hardest things to talk about. But what was interesting about Martha is that even though she was so willing to ask some of life's biggest questions and take it on by the horns, she did not really like meeting in our office. She didn't really enjoy coming to sit down with us in that kind of an environment. And it wasn't anything about Foster Group's offices. They're beautiful. We've got a pond, we've got green trees and blue sky and geese and sunshine.
In the summer.
In the summer. It's winter now, so it's all white, of course. But for her, the office just felt kind of formal and impersonal and maybe a little bit stiff and intimidating. And that wasn't going to be the best place for us to have those impactful kinds of conversations that were really going to help us have a good relationship and to help answer some of her biggest questions and worries. Martha came from a family of entrepreneurs. Her parents and grandparents were both of very humble means. They'd worked for their lifetimes to build a very successful business. And so Martha naturally was concerned about the next generation. How do we get the kids ready? How do we get the grandkids ready? What would an inheritance to them look like? Would it be a blessing to them? Could it harm them? How would they respond and handle it? These are some of the biggest questions that she was ever going to face. And in order to be able to talk about them, meeting at the office wasn't probably going to cut it. So what we did instead was we went to lunch, like we were two friends having a meal and catching up over delicious Caesar salad. And we would sometimes, she would even invite me to her farm sometimes, which was so cool to see her in her element among her passions. And having that kind of a scenery change enabled us to really dig deep into Martha's hopes and fears and worries and goals. And it made all of the difference in the world in having those kinds of conversations. I think there's this perception that when you work with an advisor, it's all business all the time. I'm wearing a suit and I'm in a nice looking office and I've got a chart right behind me of lots of impressive investment figures. And if that's what you want out of an investment or a financial planning relationships, that is great. And the right advisor will absolutely tailor that experience to your wants and needs so that the very valuable time that we're spending together with you is fulfilling. But if you're looking for something a little bit different, the right advisor is going to meet you where you are to make you comfortable. Because let's face it, talking about money is not easy really for any of us. It's one of life's most difficult topics to engage with. So we certainly don't need any more roadblocks in our path that are going to hinder us from having some of those big conversations about those difficult, sometimes topics. So with Martha, it made all the difference to have a change of scenery. And I'm a farmer's daughter, so I love just getting in my car and driving 30 minutes out of town, and a little bit of a change of
I
scenery.
can see
It was
you.
good for
Yeah,
me.
I
I
can
loved
see
it.
you are lightening up there when you got to get out of the office and get a change of scenery as well.
Maybe she did it for me too.
She might
You
have.
never know.
It's a good dual relationship there. Well, speaking of changing of scenery, sometimes starting things can be challenging. Taking that first step can be scary at times. So when you're thinking of engaging a woman in a financial advisory relationship, think of, let's see, are there certain life events? Are there certain ages and stages in which you would encourage someone to get involved?
Well, Kim, you know how I'm going to answer that question.
I can guess, yes.
You know, it's now, it's today, it's as soon as you can, and it's don't put it off any longer than you need to or have to. Time as women investors, as investors in general, is one of our most precious assets. And it's also one of the easiest things to spend unconsciously without really even knowing it. There's so many times where it's easy to say, I know this financial work is really important. I know I need to give it the time and energy that it deserves, but I'll get to it when my schedule calms down at work, or when the kids are done with their sports season, or when I finally get mom's care plan worked out and arranged. And soon a year or more has gone by and we're not really any closer to those long-term goals. So if you're able to start now and start early, you're just putting yourself in that much of a strong position and giving yourself that much more flexibility to really have the time that you need in order to be financially independent and have that sense of peace of mind. Because let's be frank, the work that we're doing, the kinds of things we're encouraging our clients to do, save consistently, invest prudently. This is the work of years. It's not something that can be accomplished in a matter of days or months. So the earlier that you can start, the better. 51 is okay. It's better than 52, right? Today is the right day. And I think there's also this perception in our industry that you need to have a large nest egg already saved. You already need to have experience with financial concepts. You need to be familiar with investments before you come to the table and you engage with an advisor. And let me just dispel this notion, because it's 100% categorically not true. And I'll give an example to illustrate. So Kim, let's say you're going to go to med school. You did great on your MCATs. You've been admitted as a new student and you're walking into your first day of classes. Your professors are not going to expect you to have the knowledge of a board certified physician on your first day of school. Frankly, that would be ridiculous. And that's a similar point can be drawn when we're thinking about the work that we do as advisors. We don't expect clients to walk in the door with a perfect balance sheet and they know all the answers already. Like med school, we're not, as advisors, going to be training you to be doctors, but we are going to help you gain familiarity with new concepts, help you build experiences, help you gain confidence and comfort with some of these financial ideas so that you're empowered to make informed financial choices that are likely to get you to where you want to go long term. We have a big table at Foster Group, and there is room for you at it. We don't expect you ladies to be perfect when you're walking in the door with all of the questions already answered. There's room for you here, and we invite you to join us.
Brittany, how would you paint the picture in somebody starting their financial journey?
Well, it's probably not a surprise that I have a client story because I have so many wonderful clients. And I think of some that have been at Foster Group for over 20 years. And one comes to mind named, I'll call her Katie. And she started investing and saving when she was working and really doing a good job of following the directions of, how to have a good financial plan, right? And what are the right things we need to be doing? And she was doing everything right. She was saving and working hard. And because she had time on her side, right, she had a lot of growth in her accounts over the years. But she is a simple woman and not spending a lot of money. So now in retirement, she's wanting to give it away to other people. She's asking questions like, how can I make a bigger impact? And she's showing me that you can be generous too with not just money, but with your time, because she spends her time with those organizations too, giving her time and money. And that just is it's really a big impact on me to see her generosity to those things that she cares about.
Wow.
I'm getting caught up in your stories. Wow. Thank you for sharing such great content today. It has been just remarkable. My goodness. I think the piece I love the most is hearing how these women have gained financial confidence through your work with them. That just is empowering to them. You have set them on this trajectory and path, and it's just been remarkable. So thank you again for sharing so much great content. I heard a few key takeaways today. I think you launched us with making that financial plan, building that financial plan is vital. Confidence is built during that season and time. Peace of mind is built during that time. Maybe the second takeaway that I heard was who you engage with and who you place your trust in is vital as well. And then, of course, this last piece of getting started as soon as possible. It will really just help make the process more seamless and give you that time, leverage that time to be able to grow your funding. We'll now transition to the Q&A portion of our webinar. If you haven't had a chance to submit your question yet, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We've been receiving great questions from you during our conversation, and it looks like with our time remaining, we'll be able to answer a few. Ladies, ready? Really, really good one here to start us off with. With the markets being so volatile, where should I invest my money so it can grow safely? I'm a 60-year-old single female. Both of you be able to weigh in on this one for us?
Great. That's a great question. And markets are volatile. They move up and down, and it can feel scary if you don't know how to make the choices and how to invest the right way for you, right? And when we talk to our clients, we talk a lot about, well, what are the goals and objectives for the dollars that you have? What do we need this money to accomplish, right? Because everyone's different, even different single 60 females are different from each other, and everyone has different things they need to accomplish. So we really look at that allocation, the balance of how much in stocks, bonds, and cash do you need for your objectives. And unfortunately, that's not the same for every single person. So that's really an individual conversation we like to have with our clients.
To Brittany's point, we could have two 60-year-old women retired clients, and their portfolios could look really different from one another depending on their goals, their time horizon for investing, their personal appetite or avoidance for risk. In the markets, there were a couple of big stories in 2022. Stocks and bonds were both down, inflation and interest rates were up, and it left a lot of investors wondering, where's a safe place to go? Fair question. The good news that we've seen out of some of these unique events from last year is that cash equivalents like CDs and money market funds and savings accounts, they're paying a lot more in the interest than they would have been a year ago. And that's a function of interest rates rising last year. But on the flip side, inflation was also a big story in 2022. And as we know, inflation tends to erode purchasing power in a cash equivalent. So we'd want to be mindful if we were using cash equivalents in a major way in our portfolio, we just have to go in with our eyes open, knowing that in an inflationary environment, our purchasing power could be affected.
Oh, well said. Thank you, ladies. Our second one, seems like there is a lot to manage with finances. Is this something I can do on my own? What do you think on those?
Of course. Yes, you can absolutely do this work on your own. And I think how I would approach that question is you need to just be a little bit honest with yourself. Are you a person that has the time to devote to managing your finances and digging real deep? Do you have an interest in it? Is this exciting to you, or is it like watching paint dry? Do you have skills and experience? Do you feel confident in those things? And if all of the answers to those questions are a resounding yes, then I would say you are probably well suited to give it a go on your own. For some of us, though, we like maybe a little bit more structure or some more accountability or a partner to come alongside us on that journey. And I will give the example of working out. If it's my goal to get in shape, I can do that in a lot of different ways. I could design my own personal fitness plan and join a gym and put myself on a schedule to meet those goals. But knowing myself, I think I would probably want a little bit of extra help, somebody to say, these are the exercises that you should be doing if your goal is to build strength and to gain flexibility. Someone who's going to say, time to go to the gym, let's go together. And someone who can look at my form to make sure that I'm doing the right things and not hurting myself accidentally. So if you're more like that, maybe it does make sense, to engage in an advisory relationship and have that partner with you alongside that journey.
That's a good point. And so many of us have handled most of our finances, right? You're probably managing your own budget. You've looked at your finances, you've had an income and taken care of those things on your own for so long that you probably do have some good financial knowledge. But so many of our clients say to us that they appreciate having a partner or someone that they can ask, am I doing the right things? Am I making the right decisions? Having someone to walk alongside for that second opinion is really valuable.
Maybe I should be doing jumping jacks and push-ups instead of sit-ups and lunges.
Yeah, I'm thankful we don't have to do any of those in our day-to-day.
Not a workout class today.
Day-to-day job. Well, ladies, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts to those questions. That's actually all the time we have for today. For those of you who joined us today, who we already have a relationship with, thank you. It's truly our pleasure to come alongside you to help you in your personal path to living a meaningful and generous life. For those of you who joined us who we may not have the privilege of serving, it'd be our pleasure to come alongside of you, get to know you, and see if we can help ensure that your financial life is truly cared for. To start a conversation with us, please contact us using the information on the screen. And lastly, as we continue to learn about hosting webinars, we'd greatly appreciate your feedback. In the next day or two, you'll receive an email from us with a survey. That survey will give you an opportunity to share your honest feedback with us, as well as an opportunity to start a conversation. On behalf of my colleagues, Brittany, Ashley, and all of us here at Foster Group, thank you for joining us. I do hope our content that we've shared has provided additional information in helping you take the next step in securing your financial future. Have a great day.